What's up, everybody? Mr. Second Passport here. Today I'm going to cover if I think there are investments in Ecuador that can beat the investing in the U.S. stock market or the S&P 500, right? We're going to take a look at a couple of these, but first we have to know what we got to beat, right? And that is, take almost the last 20 years, from 2001 to 2020. That second half of that was quite the raging bull market. And the stock market average return, according to Google here, was 7.45% annual, right? Not too shabby. But, can we beat that with investments here in Ecuador? Now, there is a warning beforehand, is that in the short term, probably not, because remember, any money you have to bring to Ecuador, if you want to take it out again, you have to pay an instant 5% exit tax on that money, and they'll get you, if you try to wire it out or pretty much any way you try to take it out, they've figured out how to apply that tax right on that money before it even leaves your bank here to go to your bank up or wherever. For the more longer term, 3-5 years or more, I would say, there are several things that can beat the U.S. stock market, the S&P 500 down here in Ecuador. Now, I'm not talking about stock picking and, picking value or growth stock specifically on your own. As we all know, most of those people who do that, I admit I do a little bit of it, get absolutely slaughtered sooner or later, like most of us have so far this year in 2022. I'm talking about just standard index fund investing that typically beats 80% of the active stock pickers out there. And, the index fund investors would have made around a 7.5% annual over the last 20 years. Now, of course, obviously that's very variable. So some years you could do a lot better, like this past year, 2021, and some years you could do a lot worse in the stock market. So you do have to kind of stomach a certain amount of volatility for that. But down here in Ecuador, in this video here, different ways that Ecuadorians use to generate cash flowing passive assets is way different than in the U.S. I'll leave a link to this video in the description below. But I covered 3 ways, right? And the first way was banks, right? Bank deposits. You can still make 2022, if you negotiate a little bit, 9% for most larger cooperatives here in Ecuador. Now they might tell you 8.5, or they might tell you 8, but if you negotiate a little bit, you can often get that 9 that a lot of us are getting, right? So there you go, 9 beats 7.5 right there, and you don't have that volatility that you might have investing in the U.S. stock market. Now, per account holder, per bank here in Ecuador, you're looking at just up to 32% up to $32,000 of your deposit is insured. Smaller cooperatives, you can make even more than that, but you have to really check. Like in this video I posted here, you've been lied to about the bank deposit insurance. You really want to check that video out and learn how to check out a bank or a cooperative in Ecuador to see exactly up to what amount they're insured up to before you deposit with them, because it does vary depending on the size and a few other factors of the bank itself. So there you go. Bank deposits, you can in the long term beat the S&P 500 as of right now. Now, as I covered in this video behind me, another big way that Ecuadorians make money is through cars, right? One way you could do is, as I covered in this video and left a contact below, you could buy a 1-year-old Kia Sportage SUV, like the one behind me, for $24,000 negotiable down here in Ecuador right now. And you could leave it with one of the rent-a-cars that are soliciting constantly cars down here, people to leave cars with them. And I've had one offer me $900 a month, fixed payment every month, fully passive investment pretty much. They would handle the clients and all the problems that might arise when renting the car. You just have to put the car and you'll have to pay for insurance yourself, which isn't too expensive down here in Ecuador. So if we deduct $100 out for the insurance and rather random maintenance you might have that might fall on you as the car owner, that's still $800 a month, and that's still a 40% return on investment by investing in rental cars. If you were able to negotiate a little bit, say off the car behind me, to say like $22,000, which is totally reasonable, that return on investment would be closer to 44,000 annual. 44% annual. Now, obviously, the car is going to depreciate with time, but down here in Ecuador, on a newer car, you'd be surprised, the depreciation is not that big. It's quite small. And the third way is not fully passive, but pretty close. What I'm doing, say, in Guayaquil with an Airbnb property. Now, real estate down here. Obviously, Ecuador real estate has a bad rep for not appreciating much in value over time, and it's true, right? You can't hope for too much appreciation down here in Ecuador, and you also can't really rent long term like you could in the U.S. in my opinion, right? I don't want to deal with it. A lot of you probably don't either, charging people by the month. Just because the laws don't favor you here. If you had to evict someone, it would be a pain in the butt, and it could take quite a while to legally get them out of your property. So in order to avoid that, maybe something like buying property in Ecuador for Airbnb, like the one I have in the center of Guayaquil in a good area, 1-bedroom suite that I bought for $67,000 just 2 or 3 years ago. You could get one pretty close to that price now. In a building with a 24-hour guard and an elevator and a pool. So, for that price, I'm generating income after expenses, after the $100 association fee and $60 for electric and $22 for internet. I don't have any cable TV. After paying all my expenses, I net about $700 a month doing short-term rentals with that property in Guayaquil. Right, and with the $700 a month, that's about average. Sometimes do a little bit more, sometimes a little less, but about $700 is about a fair amount. And off the $67,000 purchase price, that's a 12.5% return, right? So that again beats the U.S. stock market. So those are three options for you down here in Ecuador that you could realistically, right? Not hopefully, but realistically beat the U.S. stock market returns over a long period of time. Right? Maybe from 1 year to the next, who knows, right? You could do 20-30% in the U.S. stock market, but you could also do that on the downside. These three investments I covered here in Ecuador are pretty stable, right? I didn't mention taxes or insurance because taxes are a joke down here, almost a non-cost. Like for this property here, I pay like $84 a year. Like a lot of Ecuadorians, I currently don't have insurance on this property, but I'm definitely thinking about getting it. I'll post about it here in this channel. I've checked into it a little bit. It's very, very inexpensive down here to get property insurance for a property like this one behind me here in Ecuador. So there you go. There are 3 ways that you could relatively passively generate a larger return dollar for dollar than you could investing in the U.S. stock market, S&P 500. I'm Mr. Second Passport. Take care.